today's episode, I sat down with Bianca, founder of Share, an NYC-based indie media company and virtual art gallery, centering the art and stories of multicultural creatives globally. We talked about human design, her journey through the fashion industry, and the birth of Share. Grab a drink and get ready to have your cup poured into.
All righty. Hi, Bianca. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. This has been a conversation that I've been waiting to have. I know that we had our reasonings for taking a pause, but I'm excited for people just to learn more about you and about Sheer.
Yes.
So I like to start off my conversations by asking, how's your mental health today? How are you feeling?
Not to bring it back to the weather, but it because I feel like that's always like the number one thing, but it's actually sunny out. And I know we've had conversations because I love the rainy, cloudy, like I don't know what it is about that like cozy weather. I love it. But it's been raining like crazy in New York. And now that it's like the first sunny day, like I'm not gonna lie, it is hitting different. Like it does make me feel like happier and like more motivated. So yeah, I'm in like a very good, positive mood
I'm
today.
so happy to hear that because I was thinking about you the past few days and I'm like, Bianca loves this weather. And it's funny you say that because actually I've been the opposite where I actually love the cozy weather the past few days. I'm like, this is a vibe. I see why Bianca loves this because I don't like
Um,
that.
it's real moody because sometimes I could be like emo.
Yeah. And
My emo
yeah.
vibe.
No, yeah, I agree. But I think it wasn't like a sad cloudy the past few days. It was actually like a cozy, like warm cloudy. And I think sometimes when I get too deep into like winter, I'd be like, where is the sun? Where is life? Like I need like some type of life. But I actually like the weather the past few days. So yeah.
Right. And I think like especially after summer, because summer for me is always like very chaotic, like both expected because it's summertime and people are outside and there's a lot going on. But then I feel like I always have these like weird like transitional phases or like transformative like phases in my summers. It's been happening a lot for me lately. So I feel like I always leave summer like being like, oh my God, I need to decompress. Like I need
Yeah.
to process this. I need to rest. So I feel like the weather was a good transition out of summer to like everybody slow down, everybody sit down and like process, and just like chill out for a little bit.
No, I do get what you mean because I think for me, like not being a native New Yorker, but like moving to New York with New York summers being active, like you're outside, you may not get home to like 1 or 2 in the morning, and it's just
Or
like yeah, and it's just like you just got to go with the vibes because once fall comes, and you may still have those late nights, but it's not the same like in summer. Summer is a different type of like active.
right, exactly.
So to start the conversation, like since we're on the topic of New York, you grew up in New York. How was it growing up in New York? What was it like? And yeah, let's just start off there. So how was it growing up in New York?
Oh my gosh, that is definitely a loaded question. Well, I guess to be more specific, so I grew up in Brooklyn. I grew up in Flatbush, so very, very Caribbean. My mom is Haitian, so she immigrated there from Haiti. And yeah, like it was just like a melting pot of cultures, of course. I think that's what people like know New York to be, and it genuinely is that. Like I'm so grateful that I had that experience growing up in New York because I feel like I can adapt to a lot of different environments. I can adapt to a lot of different cultures. I feel like I was exposed to so many different cultures. Like even though my neighborhood was very Caribbean, like when you think about the Caribbean, there's so much that goes into that. Like I had friends that were Jamaican or Trini or Bayesian, like all the different islands. I had friends that were Filipino that went to like my local like Catholic church, and I had friends that were like Ghanaian and Nigerian. Like there are just so many different cultures that you experience, and um, I've never like kind of stuck to one group. Like I've always had like a multicultural group of friends. Like one of my best friends in like junior high was like Korean. Like I feel like I just have like different kinds of friends, and so I think New York kind of helped me with that. Um, and also I was riding the subway since I was in like, well, with parents like forever, my whole life, but by myself since I was probably like 11 or 12. So like riding the train home from like junior high school, like stuff like that. So you also develop, I guess you could say like street smarts in a way, or like you just are like exposed to things earlier, which it wasn't a bad thing for me because my mom was also like a disciplinarian. So it wasn't like I was just out in these streets. Like I was more so like witnessing things, but she would always kind of like keep me reeled in.
Yeah. And I going back to your friend group, I can definitely like attest to that. Because I know like a few weeks ago you went to LA and you were like talking about your friends there and here. And I feel like anytime I engage with you and you like introduce me to someone, it's always like I never know what I'm gonna get or who I'm gonna meet in a good way. I we never don't not have a good time together. Like I think we always leave like happy and laughing. So
I love
that's like,
that.
yeah, that's definitely like a testament. Yeah, and then going back to where you ended, growing up in New York, I think it's so interesting to me hearing how like you guys as New Yorkers grew up. Because I know for me, like I remember I would get off from school and I couldn't even go home because my mom didn't want me to be home by myself, like in the fifth or sixth grade. So you guys just grow up so much quicker, I feel like, than other areas in America, just because of how the way that the subway and everything is set up.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think it's so interesting because I feel like I always thought I knew the city because like growing up in the city, it's like it's your home, right? But I almost feel like now there's so much like New York isn't like just a city anymore like it used to be. Now it's like become an aesthetic. So I almost sometimes feel like an outsider in my own city because I'm like, do I fit in this aesthetic or am I like doing this right anymore? Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like it's interesting, like moving with the city, like moving along with the city as it's growing. Like, I'm now trying to find my footing here, even though I was born and raised here. So it's definitely changed a lot, I think is what I'm trying to say.
No, yeah, I definitely get what you mean by that because I think like even though I've only lived in New York now 5 years, I can walk past somewhere that I've been before, but it feels different. Or like, gentrification obviously is a thing. So like things are changing into like different ways rather than evolving into like what that area was known to be. And
Mhm.
so I think it does like affect the way that the city is like changing. And then also social media plays and at least in my view plays a part in that because I think that there's some people that move here and they think, oh, I'm moving to New York to fit like the creative or content creator aesthetic. And I feel like New York isn't an aesthetic. I feel like it's so much more and so much deeper.
Mhm.
What you said about Flatbush and like all the different like cultures is part of why I wanted to be in Brooklyn is because I wanted that like experience. And I feel like I hope other people from other boroughs don't come for me, but I feel like it's not the same. You won't get the same in other boroughs of New York City. So yeah.
Mhm.
But don't get me wrong, like those other boroughs do have something special about them. It's just for me, I prefer Brooklyn and like what Brooklyn has to offer. So yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Brooklyn is also like bigger. I mean, the Bronx is pretty big, but like
mm,
compared to like Queens or even like Manhattan, like Brooklyn is massive. Like there are parts of Brooklyn I haven't even been to yet in my life, and I've been here for like, 30 years. So I feel like Brooklyn is like that never ending like place of surprises. Like I feel like you're constantly unfolding new things about the city, exploring new parts, and like I feel like it's always evolving. So
true, very, very true. So fast forwarding into your life, you with let's jump forward to high school. In high school, where did you see your future going career wise? Like what were you looking at? Like this is what I want to be or this is where I want my career to go once I'm done with high school.
mm, that's so interesting that you asked that because I never think about high school, like career wise. Like I haven't thought about that recently. I haven't reflected on that recently. So now I have to like think about it. Um, well, high school was like interesting for me because I had a lot of like resentment around high school because I didn't go to the school that I really wanted to go to. I think like specifically when it comes to like career ambitions, I think most of my like childhood and young adulthood has just been like friction between like who I actually am and like what I want to do and like what I felt like I had to do or like what I needed to do. So like of course going back to like having an immigrant mom and she was also a single mom. So there was no like, oh, you're gonna be creative or you're gonna and I feel like a lot of people relate to that. So that was very much my experience. And I'll never forget, I had an audition at LaGuardia because I used to draw a lot. Like I was always drawing. Like since I was like in elementary school, I actually used to draw and I wish I still had them. I think maybe they're at my mom's house somewhere, but I used to draw sketches out of like clothes, like designs. Like I would like literally think in my mind, I'm going to be a fashion designer. And they were really good sketches because I could draw like from a very young age. And so I always just draw and sketch. And I had my little portfolio that I put together because I would always take art classes, like in elementary school, junior high. And I wanted to go to LaGuardia. I wanted to go to an art school. And I went, like my mom took me, like, because it was in Manhattan, like in the city. I didn't know where I was going. So she took me on the train, and we got there kind of late. Like the time that I got there was like right on time for like the group that I was supposed to go with to like go into the room wherever they were going to have the auditions. And like it was like you had to free draw like in the moment, like do all that kind of stuff. And I just missed the group. Like I think I saw them passing, but I didn't realize that was supposed to be my group. So I was like, damn, okay. But then they're like, oh, there's another group. It's just like a few hours later. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna wait. So I go to my mom because all the parents were like waiting outside. And I was like, hey, like there's another group. Like I really want to wait. And she's like, I'm not waiting for that. I don't have time. And I was like, what do you mean? These are my dreams. Because she wanted me to like go, because my sister went to Brooklyn Tech. So she wanted me to do the same and go to like a specialized high school. It was like a science and math school and like engineering, whatever. And they also had like humanitarians. No, that's not the word I'm looking for. I don't remember the word, but like social studies, like liberal arts, like that kind of thing. And so I could go either way. And I'm like, I want to do art. And so I never ended up like going to the audition. Like I went home, I cried the whole way. I was so sad. And then from that point on, like I kind of just like repressed my like artistic, um, like any dream that I had to do anything like creative, really, I kind of like repressed it. And I was like going to just be a lawyer because we all knew I was not good at math and science and none of that. So my mom was like, all right, try the lawyer thing. Because like I was really good at like social studies and English and writing. And I read a lot as a kid. I was always reading. So I was like, all right, I'll just go down that path. So really that's what I spent most of my high school focusing on, was like I was gonna be a lawyer. And then I like at my high school we had majors, like which was weird. But we had majors, and so my major was law and society. And so I took like constitutional law, like I took like criminal, like forensic psychology. I took like all the APs that had to do with like law and like government and social studies and AP like American history. Like I took all those and I was like excelling in those classes. Like I was getting like all high like 90s in all those classes. So I was like, I'm just gonna like go down the law track. And then when I was applying for college and stuff, like I ended up like being a poli sci major. Like when I started college, I was a political science major. So yeah, so that was like my high school. Like I was like, I'm just gonna like do the law thing and like go down the law track. And I pretty much like suppressed like any like creative interests aside from like fashion. Like I still like read magazines and like that kind of thing. But yeah, that was really like where my mind was. Very different from where I am now.
Yeah, it totally is. And first off, I know we're friends, but like I think it's gonna like show me a different light of you in a good way, because I didn't know that. And maybe we did talk about it and I forgot, but like I really didn't know that about you. Going back to LaGuardia, I obviously am not from New York, but I've heard a lot about LaGuardia, and a lot of famous people have come from that school, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah.
The first one that comes to my mind is Nicki Minaj, but there are like plenty others.
There's so many. I think because I listened to the Friend Zone. I feel like Friend, who's on the Friend Zone, she went there, and a couple other people. Like there's a list of like people who have gone there. So not knowing a lot of schools in New York, I know that that's like a prominent, like you're gonna make it if you go to that school. Like from what I understand.
Could have been me.
No, but like once we dive more into it, you've made it just in a different way. So I do understand that if you would have gone there, how that would have gone. And the high school you went to, it sounds a lot similar to the high school I went to. Which okay, backtracking, but our experiences were kind of similar but different. I actually applied for an art school in Miami, but I didn't get in because I can't draw. But I knew I wanted to be within the creative field. I just didn't know what and how. But I just was like, let me just try it. Yeah. And I think that's one thing I can sometimes think about my mom, is that sometimes she would give me the opportunity, but like it depended on things that she agreed with. So yeah. So I did go to an academy school. So we had academies and we had like different like focuses, I guess, like how you said majors. And I was in like the vet science track. So it was very much that like you're gonna focus on these classes so then once you get to college you can continue on in that field, even though a lot of times most of the people didn't even continue on in that. It's just we were forced to do it in high school. So yeah.
Right. It was too soon
It
to
was
like.
too soon.
So I changed my major in college 3 times. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
changed my
Which
major.
is fair.
I was like, why do y'all want me to figure this out right now? I'm just trying to vibe. Like, I'm
I don't
trying
even know
to
who I am as a person fully.
yeah, I'm not trying to plan out the next like 20, 30 years, because in America they got you working forever.
Yeah.
It's 40, 50 years of my life. Like right now, it's not trying to do
Yeah, let's just figure this out. So you suppressed like your artistic, like your creative outlet. You went, excuse me, you went to college and you changed your major 3 times. So how did you end up deciding on what you would major in and then what was your next steps in that major?
So I'm gonna be so honest, like school was not my priority in college, like at all. So for many reasons. So me having like the resentment that I had going into high school, because I didn't go to the high school I wanted to go to, was the same resentment that I had going to college. Because I also didn't go to the college I wanted to go to. Like I so it was a lot. It was a lot. Like I wanted to go away. And my sister had went away and I saw how much fun she had. And I was like, I want to go away, like for school. And it just didn't end up working out. Like I ended up staying in New York City because I got like a pretty good scholarship with Fordham. So I stayed in the city and I figured like it would make sense if I want to be a lawyer because they have a really great law school. Like I could maybe stay within like the same university and kind of follow that track. So, and just getting opportunities at like major law firms and stuff like that, it just would make sense to stay in New York. So I reluctantly went to Fordham, and my mom was really happy about it because it's like Jesuit school, and she's like devout Catholic, and so I just felt like I was making a lot of decisions like that weren't necessarily my decisions, but you're so young at that age, and you just like whatever. So I ended up being a poli sci major at Fordham, and I'll never forget like when you're like I don't know if it's just poli sci, I guess it's all majors, but like there's just certain like intro classes that you have to take, and so you just automatically end up with the other people in your major, and they were all like talking like deep about like CNN and stuff that they were watching, and I'm over here like, what are y'all even talking about? Because I was barely watching the news. Like, sorry to admit that, but I was barely watching the news. So I was like, they were talking about their local councilman and like this thing that happened. I'm like, I don't even know who my councilman is. I was like, honestly, so I just immediately was like, I don't think this is for me. But I gave it a good shot. But like, I don't remember even finishing that course. I feel like I dropped out of that poli sci course immediately. And I was like, nah, this ain't gonna work. And so I think I was like, okay, what's the next best thing? And I realized like I had a lot of interest in fashion and I've always been really into magazines and things like that. So I was like, okay, like maybe I could be an editor. And this is like 2010. So this is like prior to I mean, Facebook existed, but I don't even know if Instagram existed yet. This was prior to like real social media. It was just like blogging and stuff like that. So like blogging and like magazines. And I was like, maybe I could be an editor because like it's not fully artistic in the way that I deep down want to be, but it's still creative, but it's still like a solid job. Like I could work at a publication, I could work in media. I was thinking like, how can I like still be myself but still have some kind of stability? So I was like, let me just be a communications major. It's broad. There's TV, there's newspaper, there's magazines. Like I'll figure it out. So I switched my major to communications, and then some crazy stuff happened. So I ended up having a conversation with my sister, and she was like, you, and I thank God for her like saying this, and she was just like, you need to do what you want to do. Like you need to just do what you want to do. Some way, somehow, she was thinking like one of her friends is like from New Jersey and went to some event in New Jersey and somehow met this woman. Her name's Kim Friday. She's like an OG in like fashion publication. Like she worked at Women's Wear Daily back in the day. I don't know where she's at now, but somehow met her and spoke and reached out to her saying like, oh, I have a friend who's interested in learning about fashion, getting into fashion. Do you have opportunities like at Women's Wear Daily? Like for her, that's how that happened. And then she was like, yeah, like here's my assistant's email, have her like email her resume or like whatever. I didn't have no resume. I was like 18 or like 19 when I was like, it. And then so somehow I reached out and they like brought me in, and I had like an interview, met them, and they were like, yeah, do you want to like start interning here? And I was like, okay. And they're like, Fashion Week is next week. You're going to be like going to the shows. We're going to give everyone a schedule of like where you're going to go. I was like, oh my gosh. So I was like, I need to do this. But then I had to go to my school to get like permission to be an intern, because it was like my sophomore year, I think. Either my freshman or sophomore year, and you had to wait till you were junior to start interning. So I was like, okay, spoke to my dean. They were like, here's an email at CBS. Next year you can intern at CBS if you want. And I was like, I don't want to intern at no CBS. Like I'm trying to go to Fashion Week. Like, what are you talking about? So I ended up doing the internship anyway, like without, which like I probably could have gotten a lot of trouble, but I already graduated, so whatever. But yeah, like I ended up just going forward with the internship, like just on my own, like without like my school being involved. And girl, like it was the most like incredible experience ever. Like I did get to go to Fashion Week. I got to go to like the Plaza Hotel and go to like the Marquesa show. And like I got to go, I don't know if you remember Hervé Leger, those like bodycon dresses that were so popular back in the day. I got to go backstage to that show and like meet people and talk to people. I was like in the photography pit at like shows. I went to like a Norma Kamali presentation. I went to Alison Olivia presentations. Like I was just like bouncing around because my job was to like meet with the photographers. So sometimes I get to actually be in the pit with them, get the what do you call it, the like memory card with the photos, and then run it back to the office. And then every intern had their own schedule of like all the different shows that they needed to go to. And then I got to go to like Jeremy Scott, and like I got to meet him there like at his show. Like it was just so, like for someone that I was like 18, 19 at the time, and like it was just like a very magical like amazing experience. And then we had photo shoots too, so I get to go and like assist on the shoot, and they would actually put my name like in the newspaper, and I still have a copy of like the newspaper for like the shoots that I got to like assist with, like Bobby Queen, who's also like a legend in like editorial and like fashion. And Women's Wear Daily is like a like really big industry publication. So being so young and like going to that office and like I think it was like 47th Street and like 3rd Avenue or something like that, like going to the city, like doing all of this, like it was just like I was like, this is what I want to do. Like I want to be in this industry. And so school was not my priority. Like I was in class, but barely. Like once I got through communications, I was like, I already know what I want to do. I don't care about the history of TV. Like I did not care. I was like, I need to get by. And I realized I was like, this is a very demanding major. I'm not going to be able to like go like intern the way I want to and complete this major. And I was also working. I was working at Urban Outfitters at the time. I started working at Urban Outfitters when I was 18. So at Bryant Park, the 42nd location, 5th Ave, 43rd and 5th. So I was like, I don't have time for all of this. So something has to go, and communications had to go. So I was like, what is the easiest major I can do so I can just graduate and have a degree and get the hell up out of here? And that was English. So then my third major was English. So I went to my dean. I was like, I'm going to be an English major. So I need to get these classes out the way. And so I was trying to find the most low lift, not challenging major ever. And that was English. So then that's what I ended up graduating with. But I just kept pushing on internships. Like after Women's Wear Daily, I ended up getting an internship at Nylon magazine in Soho. So I interned there, and then Harper's Bazaar, and then Alexander Wang, and then I went back to Harper's Bazaar. So those are like all my internships. Okay, that was my spiel.
No, that was a good spiel. And funny enough, when I moved to New York City, I worked at Urban Outfitters, and I worked at that Bryant Park location for Black Friday. Yes. I don't think we knew each other. Wait, what'd you say?
What year was it?
It wasn't until like 2018 or 2019?
Oh yeah, I left. I worked there from 2010. I worked when they opened. So I actually had to
Okay.
work at the Union Square location for a little bit before they
Okay.
actually opened it. So I opened it, and a lot of my friends I still have to this day. We all met there, which is really funny.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I quit in like I think 2013.
Okay,
I went to
yeah.
work at American Apparel.
Okay, okay, okay.
That was my next retail job.
Hmm. So going back a little bit, sorry, I lost my train of thought earlier. But I got it back. When you were in, so okay, for my high school, since we had academies, you couldn't transfer past the 10th grade because you had to have like certain classes in order to graduate. So even though you didn't get the chance to get into LaGuardia, were you not able to still like apply at a later moment, or was your mom kind of like a once you're in high school, you're not switching high schools type of
Oh
thing?
yeah, no, she's
Okay.
very like by the books, very
Yeah, we're gonna stay here for 4 years.
because the funny thing about that is in order for her to want to do that, in order for her to do that, she would want to do that. Like my mom will
Mm-hmm.
only go out of her way if something she wants to do. So
Mm-hmm.
like she didn't really want me to go there anyway. So
Yeah,
she
yeah,
wouldn't like go out of her way to like have me transfer.
yeah.
Like, that's gonna affect your grades and that's gonna do this and like this is a better school for you and yada yada yada. Um Granted, I did learn a lot. I think I'm a much smarter person because I went to Brooklyn Tech. I do feel
Mm-hmm.
like it trained me, like my brain.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, like who cares like about just being like really, really smart? You know, I think for me, like being more authentic to myself would have been a better path. But you know, it is what it is.
And then same with college. Was it because also your mom is so by the book and you weren't sure, like I guess, how to navigate that? Like, well, I don't want to say you weren't sure how to navigate that. I don't want to put that. I don't want to speak that over the situation. But even though you got into Fordham, if I'm not mistaken, that's what you said. Even though you got into Fordham, where's your thoughts not? Okay, I'm going to do a semester and then transfer to like an FIT or like some other artistic school, or
Well,
where
I didn't
you?
want to go to art school I didn't want to do anything artistic at that point, remember? Because
Okay,
like after high school, I was like, oh, I'm gonna just be a lawyer. It wasn't
okay.
until I got to college and I was like, I did the poli sci thing. I was like, that's when I was like, and then that conversation with my sister is what like really sparked me to be like, okay, you know what? Just go all in for what you actually want. And then
Yeah.
that's kind of how I tried to like navigate it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I see what you're saying because like I think like I didn't think that far into like changing my school because I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
focused on school. I learned early on that like I didn't need like the school stuff. I just
Mm-hmm.
needed to, like meet the right people and like make the right connections. And because the reason I got the nylon internship, I used to do this like I was so then I think about it, I used to be like low key like crazy because I put on a really cute outfit and I walked around Soho with copies of my resume and I went into the nylon office and
What?
I was like, hey, can I talk to some? Because I knew like where it was, and I was like, hey, can I talk to someone? And I just talked to the girl and I was like, I really want to intern here. Like, can I speak? Like, that's how I also got my job at Topshop. I walked around, I was looking for a new job. And I walked in and I was like, hi, like, I really want a job and I really want to work here. So here's my resume. She's like, oh, you look cute. I was like, thanks. And I was like, I need a job. I used to do that all the time.
Like,
Like,
I know I look cute. I purposely look cute.
I would put on a cute outfit. Like, I was not playing and I would just show up. That's how I used to get stuff. And then it's like when one door would open, then like because once I got the nylon internship and I had already had Women's Wear Daily, then when I interviewed for like Harper's Bazaar, I just applied normally and like they saw,
Mm,
oh, you have experience. So like
yeah. And by that point you had like profitable like brands where it's like, oh shit, she interned here, she interned here. Yeah, let's definitely hire her.
right. Cause I
Mm-hmm.
not like growing up in Flatbush, I did not know nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Had nothing. Like all I had was myself and my cute outfit. So I was like, me and my cute outfit and my resume, we're gonna make this hit. So that's basically what I had to do.
I hope other people found that funny because I just want you guys to see how funny we are. But okay, back to professionalism. Okay, that all makes sense. Cause then I was gonna say, like, in the creative, okay, so then taking it back, when you went for the audition, you obviously were like into drawing, and then you suppressed, like, okay, I don't want to be in the creative field anymore. I'm gonna do poli sci. Then you did the internships, and you're like, wait, I want to be in this industry, but now I want it to be fashion focused. Did what was like, hold on. So okay, so then you said
There's
that
a lot
you
going on. I know.
yeah, sorry. I'm looking at my notes. I'm like, wait, so she said this and she said this. Okay. So then in the creative field, you did it. So then in the creative field, you did originally want to be like a designer drawing type of like aspect. So then when you got into the fashion industry, even though you changed your mind and was like, I wanted to be an editor, did you like think back to like, maybe I should go like shadow people like within like the drawing industry in any way or like designers? Or were you just like, no, I'm more focused on like the writing and editor aspect of it?
Yeah, so one thing I will say about me that I've learned, and I definitely feel this right now, is I have a million different interests. Like I feel like I always try to put myself in a box, but I just can't. Like I have so many different things that I'm interested in. I also get bored easily. So that's why I tend to like pick up things, drop things, pick up things, drop things like all the time. And it's hard to kind of keep up with like what I'm doing or what I'm working on because I can't even keep up with that. But I think like so when I was younger and I used to like draw a lot, I used to draw so much like landscapes, like I used to do a lot of portraits. I used to but the biggest thing was like fashion designs because I swore that I was gonna like have a clothing line. I think I had a name for it, but I don't remember what it was. And I remember I like learned how to sew, and so I would take like old scraps of like clothes like that my mom didn't want anymore or like whatever, and I would like sew and like make them into new things, and then I would put on like little fashion shows like for my grandma because like she was like no one else was gonna sit and watch that. So I would like do that kind of stuff, and I was like super into like that fashion side, but then I realized like in the real world like it's so hard to actually be a fashion designer, like especially when you have no money, you don't have any connections, you don't have any privilege. Like I commend people that do it. I think a lot of people, if you don't have like the privilege or like the investments and the resources up front, like I think a lot of people would just work for a designer. So like that's something that like I could have done. But I think because I fell off track so much, like once I got into like the law side of things, like I just became more like less artistic and hands-on and more like studious. So it just I feel like I kind of like fell out of that element of like even trying to pick up a craft again, you know, like that's why I don't even draw anymore. And it makes me sad. Like that's something I kind of want to get back into now. Cause like I want to get back into being more hands-on because I feel like I like completely fell off that like side of myself. So what I did though was I don't know if you remember this, but there was this website called Polyvore, and it was like it was like a styling website. You would make collages of outfits, and I used to be on there for hours. Like that's how I learned about a lot of designers. Like I would study a lot of designers, I would study a lot of brands, and I would like put outfits together. And so that was another piece of like me trying to bring that artistic side back into like my career. But even just like being on set a lot, because I had to be on set a lot it through my internships and just watching stylists like put things together. I had to like you would have to like go through all the collections every season, like going to the shows, but then also like going through the lookbooks and like putting the different look numbers together. They're like, oh, I need look number, whatever. You need to go through and figure out what is look number. I don't know. And I learned about so many designers that way. So even though I wasn't learning about like the behind the scenes craft of the designer, I was still like I guess learning about designers in general and like how to style things together, how to put things together, and like studying the history of fashion. Like that was all very like interesting to me. And finding like random magazine, like fashion magazines, like I would go to like those stores. There's one in Chelsea. There's stores where they're like you can't get like these fashion magazines anywhere else. Like they're like very like niche, like very specific fashion magazines, like Purple and like all that kind of like fashion and art magazines. I interviewed to like work there actually, intern there, and like see our fashion book, like things like that. I used to go to those stores and pick up all those like magazines and study them and read them. And I think like with Alexander Wang interning there, that's the first time I really got to see behind the scenes because they make all the clothes in there and like the accessories like in the off like the headquarters. I don't know if it's like that now. There were like a bunch of people working there with the sewing machines, like putting the clothes together, putting the bags together on like different floors. Cause I work in PR. So I was on like the PR, like marketing floor, like the showroom floor. But then on top, there was like the actual like production and like seeing the people that worked for him and like the design work. Like it was just interesting. So that was my one experience with the designer, but I wasn't like deep in that. I was like on the press side. But yeah, I don't know if that answered the question, but
It did. I just wanted to close the gap there. And I just want to also shout out your sister. Even like the first time I met her, I think was at your birthday party a few years ago. Like she goes hard for you. She loves like just making sure that you're happy. So I just want to like shout that out. So now jumping back to where you ended off, you worked Fashion Week. You had the Fashion Week experience. Um, so you at this point had interned with Nylon, Alexander Wayne. You did some things with like Hearts. Like you have been like throughout the fashion industry, and by this point, you then transition over to Saks, and you like I feel like you steered your career into more like a content PR side. So what was like the leading factor to you getting into like Saks Fifth Ave?
Okay, yeah, I try to be like short, but everything is so long-winded with me because I had so many like random experiences. So there's a lot of little things that happened that led from internships in fashion to Saks. So once I graduated from college, it was so bad, but I didn't even like actually quit my retail job. I just stopped going. I was like, I'm done. I hate retail, like in stores, like working. Oh my God, it's so rough. Like I feel like people don't even understand. Like I know food is hard too, but I've never had the food experience. But retail is like
Hard.
it will kill your soul. So it really will if you let it. And I was like, no, I don't want to do this no more. But I was interviewing at uh where was I? I was at Harper's, which I love that internship so much. And there were some really great people that worked there at the time. And I was interviewing at Lucky magazine, which I don't know if you're familiar with it. It shuttered, but at the time, like Eva Chen was the editor in chief. So I was interviewing there and at W magazine. And I got an offer from Lucky. This was like to be like to work in their like fashion. I think it was accessories department as like an assistant. And I ended up getting an offer, but it was too late because I had to get back to Lucky before W, and W was going to be fashion. And I really wanted to go to W because that was more my speed. I really wanted to do like high, like luxury. But they didn't get back to me in time, and I didn't. And you know, like you're fresh out of college, you're like, oh, I don't want to risk like an opportunity, so I just went with Lucky. And then I didn't end up going to like W magazine anymore. But that would have been like my dream like first job. And I graduated probably like Saturday, went to work on Monday immediately. I started working at Lucky. So that was in the Condé Nast building when it used to be in Times Square. And then I did that for a couple months. And then I ended up meeting someone there that worked at Glamour. And so I interviewed at Glamour just to be like an assistant there too. And I ended up getting a job there. My last day, this is like kind of like traumatic, but I laugh about it now because I'm fine. But my last day at Lucky, I was on my way to work and I got hit by a dollar van. This is a very Brooklyn shit. I got hit by a dollar van. I was literally walking like a couple blocks from home, and this guy like turned. He was like turning. I was listening to music. I was listening to Drake, which bad luck. I was in Drake, and I was across the street, and this dollar van like turned, and I'm thinking he's gonna slow down because like obviously like I'm across the street, it's my light. He just like I don't know why he was like speeding or what the case was. Literally would not stop. So I start running like a little bit like a light jog because I'm like whoa. It was like when your reflexes kick in immediately, and then he was not stopping. So then I like threw myself out of the way, and he ended up like kind of like grazing over like my ankle a little bit. I didn't break anything, but I couldn't walk. Like I was on the side of the road, like crying, like in the street. I had these leather pants on. They were completely like ripped, ruined. Like I was bleeding. I couldn't walk. And this guy was like on a motorcycle and stopped and like picked me up, pulled me onto the sidewalk. He's the one that called like 911. I was just crying. I had like a bunch of thank you cards in my bag that I was going to bring to the office. This was my last day, all just flown everywhere. And then he like called, 911, ambulance came. Like as I was waiting, like he ended up like having to leave. And then like once the ambulance came, and then people were like on the side of the road asking, are you okay? Like people stopping, like, are you okay? Are you okay? Crazy. It was a hit and run. Like this dude was gone, or whoever was driving. I don't know. They were gone. So I did not make it to work that day. I was in the hospital. And then I went through a whole thing. Like I had to go to physical therapy. I had to wear like a splint or whatever the thing is called. I was like limping for like at least a month or so. And I I had crutches. It was a whole thing. And so I couldn't start Glamour right away. But once I was kind of ready to start, it was really difficult for me because I would have to leave early to go to physical therapy. I had like all these other, like, I was on like pain meds. Like, it was just a lot going on. And so I told them, I was like, I don't think I could do this. And it was like a wake up call for me because basically I didn't have insurance. Like, I was working in these, yeah, at these places, and they don't give you no insurance. You don't have any real like security. Fortunately, it was a hit and run, so I did not have to foot the bill. Like, I had like a law firm reach out to me. I think they just get money from the city or whatever. I didn't have to pay for any of my physical therapy or the ambulance or the hospitals, like nothing. And like detectives were trying to investigate, but there were no cameras. So it was like really hard, but like it wasn't on me. So I did not have to pay for anything. But that was a wake up call for me. I was like, I have this dream, but like I can't like live like this. Like, I'm an adult now. Like, I need to like have security. So with Glamour, I told them I was going to take a step back. Like, I don't think this is like the right time for this. I can't do this right now. And they encouraged me. They were like, oh, what if you just take a few months and come back? Like, you can always come back. They were very, very kind. But I was just said, I need more time. I need time to just like think. And it was also around time of my birthday. It was like November. I was like, I'm going to take a step back. And one of the people I worked with at Glamour ended up sharing my information randomly with a friend of hers at a PR firm called Carla Otto. It's like a big fashion PR firm. I don't know how it happened because they reached out to me out the blue. They were like, we want to interview you. It was for a salary position, like with benefits, all that. And I was like, how did you even get my information? And it turns out like someone at Glamour was having dinner with someone there. And my name came up because they brought me because they said they really liked my work ethic or whatever. And they were like, oh, like, well, here's their information. If you're looking, like, that's how that happened. And I was like, what? Like, it was just like, again, random. So I did apply for it because I was like, at least there's benefits here. Like, that's kind of what got me in the mindset of like, I need stability in my life. I can't do like, yeah, this fashion closet stuff is cute, but I need a real big girl job. Like, I can't chase this forever. So I did that for a little bit, but PR is not for me. I'm gonna just leave it at that. Uh, it was fun because I was on Emilio Pucci and Rocha, which were like two really fun brands. So it was just cool, interesting. Like, you got to like work with celebrities. Like, people would come by all the time. Like, Beyonce stylists would come by, or like, what's that guy's name? He styles, I think, Jason Rem something. He styled like Iggy Azalea at one point, but like a bunch of different people. And he would come by, like a lot of different stylists, and people would come by, like different publications would reach out to you. People would reach out for like award shows. Like, so it was interesting seeing that side of the business. But I like was like, no, mm-mm. It was like too demanding for me. Like, we worked with like all these global offices. They would be calling you all, you had a work phone, they'd be calling you all kinds of times of day. You had to work on the weekends. And you know how people now be like soft life, soft life. So like, that was not soft life like at all. And I was about soft life. I did not want that. So I left, and then that's when Saks. So like, I was really like trying to figure out, where can I still do fashion and have like stability. So I decided to go down like the e-commerce side. And this is when the industry was changing. It was becoming more digital. So like less focus on like magazines and like more traditional fashion. And like what's going on online, like more online shopping, more like social media started picking up. Instagram started picking up, like all these things started picking up. So like I was shifting from like print to like digital in my mind. And Saks had this amazing like editorial opportunity as an assistant in their photo studio. And I found it online. And so I applied and I interviewed, and I ended up getting it. And that's how I started working at Saks. Yes.
Now that makes so much sense because I think I met you either like at the point of like your last few months at Saks, and then like that's when you went on like the trail of like everything else. So a lot of the stuff you shared is things that I never even like knew within our relationship because we just haven't really talked about that stuff yet. But on the PR front, being that I've worked in PR, it's PR, not ER. And that is like the tough part that people don't realize about PR is like, they're like, what do PR people do? And it's a lot that people don't see. And there is no chance to have a vacation from it. So it's an industry that you have to know, like, before you go into it, you probably will not have like a balance of like work-life balance. It does not exist there. Like, just being transparent. So
I was too young for that too. I was trying to go on
yeah.
little Tinder dates and
Oh,
out and have fun. I was not trying to be
and you
like,
can do the Tinder dates, but it's like, oh wait, can we like take 5 seconds? I gotta like go answer this email real quick. Like, yeah.
no,
Bianca's like, no.
yeah, no. And on the weekends too, I'm like,
Yeah.
that's me time. Like, cause
No.
I was like out all the time. Like I was,
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not sitting around at 10 p.m. on a Saturday because this show is about to drop and I need to send you the press clippings. Like,
Mm-hmm.
no.
Yeah. I remember the last contract I had to do PR, and like I'd be up to 11 because on the West Coast it was like an award show happening, and I had to like approve what was going to go to print the next day. I was like, yeah, that is PR for you.
Depends on
But
the industry, I will say. Like I
what'd you
feel,
say?
and it depends on the industry too. Like not industry, but like the field that you're in.
Like whether it's music, fashion, or like something more like health
Yeah, I feel like
related.
entertainment
It
fashion,
does.
that's like they're more demanding because I know like PR could be like in any like industry.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, definitely in that sector, it's like
It's a lot.
madness. Yeah.
It's crazy. So back to the Dollar Van story. Like, what? I never, because I know you just had your foot surgery. So I'm just like,
Oh yeah, that was
what?
another. Luckily, I didn't break any bones. I think that's what made it more manageable.
Yeah.
If I had broken a bone, that would have been
It
a
would
problem.
have been,
I had to have like I guess surgery or whatever. But I like it was just like a weird like muscle kind of pull situation,
mhm.
but I could not like walk properly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because it's like, I guess he must have put like too much pressure or something.
Yeah, like on the tire or whatever. It
Yeah.
was like crazy. Oh my gosh. So I like was pretty like traumatized like crossing the street for a while. I think sometimes I still have a little like weird thing about crossing the street. Like
Okay. I'll remember that the next time we cross the street together. Like, Bianca maybe.
also I'm like very I think I'm more alert too. Like when I cross the street, like I'm extra alert than how I've been in the past. Thank God I wasn't texting or anything like that because I feel like I wouldn't have had the like reflexes to like react. But yeah.
Yeah, no, it could have been worse. But I think it's funny how life goes where things happen to just like fall into place in like a certain way. And I do just want to say, you sharing the story of that girl who referred you to the PR firm. Remember when we talked about human design and you were saying that yours is like you just allow like whatever the universe brings towards you? Like, you don't, I wouldn't say you don't not work for it because you do, but like because of your work ethic, it allows for like so many things that has happened for you to just fall into place. So
Yeah, that's
yeah.
like one of the biggest lessons. Because when I look at my life, that's how it's always been. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's been like things happening to me, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily like forcing anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I kind of miss like back in the days because I feel like I like everyone was kind of in their own bubble, which I like because I think even though I know that's my MO and that's how my life works, I think sometimes I'm pressured now just by all the stimuli and like the noise and like seeing how everyone else is doing things, and then I feel like, oh, I need to like do this or I need to do that because that's what everyone's doing. Or and it's frustrating because I know that's not my life. Like just because that's what people are telling you to do or that's the advice people are giving you, that's just not how my life has always been. And so I find myself still trying to like force things or like make this connection or do this. And I'm like, but you know, that's not how things work out for you specifically. And like to your point, like, yes, like I have to kind of like wait for things to happen, but it only will happen if I'm prepared. So if I'm like actually doing the work, if I'm actually like in position to receive whatever this thing is, that's when it'll come in. Not like, oh, I'm just sitting on my hands, like waiting, like, no, I'm still working. I'm still doing things. I'm still working on myself. And when it's right, like when the time is right, then that thing will usually kind of work itself out behind the scenes.
No, yeah, I definitely agree. And I think that's even like what I was thinking about earlier. Because before we started our conversation, I was watching a clip of, I think it was Kanye West's documentary, and it was the clip when he played Through the Wire for Pharrell. And
Mm-hmm.
someone like quoted it because I don't know if you noticed, but like a lot of music that has recently come out is like heavily sampled, and you can tell which song it's sampled for. I missed that moment when it's like, dang, this is a sample, but like, where is it from? And you had to like
Love that.
search. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say I love that because there's so many TikToks that are out that like will find the most like random song. And sometimes it's not even like a random, like sometimes it is like a random song that just never really blew up. Or it'll be like from a culture, like from a different country or different culture, and it'll be like a certain instrument pulled from that song or something. And you'd be like, yo, like how did you even think to sample that? And that is one of my favorite things about production. I love how people take samples and where they find samples from. Like, you know, like as a creative too, like you go down a lot of rabbit holes. Like I was like trying to brainstorm for this project and I went down some crazy rabbit holes last night on my laptop, like just random pictures, things that I was finding. And I'd be like, I love that. That's like the fun part of like creativity is like going down these rabbit holes. So I can't even imagine, like I'm looking at like images, but like for someone with music, like being able to like find this like random song from like, I don't know, like Indonesia from 1975. And then you take that song and then you like turn it into like a trap like beat or something. Like,
Yes.
it's so cool that you could just do that. And that people
And then they flip it or they like fast forward or slow it down.
yeah.
And it's like, wait, what?
Or only pull
But
the strings or like
yes,
pull like the keys or like, oh, I think that's so fire.
it's
Like,
just that ear. And like, not to like stump on or shit on artists of today, but like some artists have sampled songs and they just haven't done that work. They just like you'll literally be like, oh, this is a sample from this. Okay, great. And you're literally using the same lyrics of that
something. Yeah, it's so whack.
yeah. So like I think going back to what you were saying, where you kind of try to come from the pressure of like social media where it's like you have to be doing things a certain way or whatever the case may be. And that's what I admire about you, and also what I try and like instill in my own life is like get off of social media. And I think that's probably why you're like that, because you don't be on social media like that.
No, I
Um
just don't care.
yeah, you don't. And that's it's so funny because even though I work in social media influencer marketing, a lot of my like I feel like my best friends, like my closest friends, aren't on social media, which I think is so funny to me.
I work
But
it.
no, yeah, you work in it,
Yeah,
but you get the job done, then you get off. Like, yeah. So yeah, I think it's just really just getting back to the ways of how things were before social media, but still using it to like your advantage when you need it, and then going back to like your normal life. It's like
yeah.
going to go live in a farm and then working in social media and then going back to your farm, because that's
I like
honestly kind of
posting. I think like for me, I like posting like here and there, like just little bits of like my life. Or if I'm like
mm-hmm.
and I'm like, oh, I want to share this. Like this is like fun, or this is to me, or it's interesting to me, or exciting to me. But I feel like so many things happen in my life, just even daily. Like I see inspiration or interesting things, but I don't necessarily feel the need to share them all the time. Like some things I share, some things I don't. Sometimes I feel like I don't want to. Like it almost feels, to be honest, it feels like a chore. Like if I'm like in some moments, like I kind of just see how I'm feeling. Like, does it feel natural for me right now to want to share this? Then I'll do it. Like sometimes I'm in that mood where I want to share and I'm sharing a bunch. And then I have moments where I'm like, I'm just enjoying this moment right now. Like if I share, it feels like a chore, or it just feels like something I feel like I have to do, and it's not natural and it's not fun anymore. So I just don't. Like it just depends on my mood.
But I think it's also you're the type of person where you actually like enjoy and like just like even like hanging out with you. I feel like you just like really take into like consent. Like I'm hanging out with this person, I'm gonna like really be present in the moment. You're like a present in the moment, and like things are like more sacred to you.
Yeah.
And not like to get that deep, but I really do feel like that's how it is with you. Versus it's like if I'm hanging out with like more of like my content creator friends, it's like, oh, let's go get content, let's do this, and let's do that. And it doesn't really feel like we're like really connecting, which going back to what I just said, a lot of my closest friends are people who aren't really into content in that way or like social media in that way. It's people that we are able to have like genuine conversations and genuine connections and actually grow and develop and know things about each other versus like, we took a cute picture, now let's go post it type of thing, which not shitting on those people, but yeah.
Right. That's like the world we live in. I mean, not to be like a purist or anything, because I do appreciate like gray area. You know, not everything's black and white, even though I'm such a black and white person sometimes and I need to like be more like middle ground sometimes. But I do feel like it is mutually exclusive, like connection and like performance. And I feel like when you're in the content creation side of things, it is inherently a performance. Like it's not like yeah, you could be being yourself, but even just the thought of like recording something or whatever, like if you're aware that you're recording or you're planning to record this, then I feel like you start to go into like the performance mode. Like I like that's, you just can't help like go there. And like if you're connecting, then there's no surveillance. There's no one watching, or there's no like, I know someone is watching this or going to watch this. There's no like outcome. Like no one's going to rate our dinner that we had together where we were talking. Like, you know what I mean? No one's gonna rate it, no one's gonna like it, no one's gonna comment on it, no one's gonna perceive it. Like it's so I feel like those things, it's hard to like blend the two. Like you kind of have to separate. Like if we're gonna do content creation today, we're probably not gonna do much connecting. You know, and if we're doing the connecting today, then we're probably not gonna like take many pictures or videos, because that's just not like, I feel like it's really hard to like blend the two.
Oh, that's a good point of view. I would rate our dinners though 10 out of 10. But I think it's funny when you say it's no, not funny. It's actually spot on for you to say that, because I think of like Drewski and how he like makes fun of like girls or like the different
He's
creators.
funny.
He is funny. Or the people who make fun of like once their friend is like recording them and it's like, oh my God, stop recording. It's like, you know, your friend was about
You
to
know you're about to, and it's like you can either do one or two things. You can either like start giving, like, okay, like, I'm gonna give what you want because you've got the camera on me, or you're gonna be like, can you please get that camera out of my face? Like,
but you're not gonna say like, oh my God, stop, get out of my face. I'm like, yo, get the camera out of my face. I wanna be like,
I'm the one that's like, it depends on my mood again.
no,
Like,
and it does.
it changes the scenario. It
Yes,
changes the vibe once the cameras start coming out, and
it
it's
does.
like, all right.
It does. It does. Okay, now getting back on track. So you're at Saks Fifth Ave. You've left like the fashion industry in the sense of like interning and assisting and just really not being somewhere where you don't have security and like support in the sense of like health insurance or like maybe putting towards your like 401k or different, yeah, definitely that. And then you also took a little detour, went to the PR route, and quickly was like, this is not fit with my lifestyle of like being able to have a life, but also like giving to my career. Now you're at Saks. You were there for a long time, which I commend you. You were there for close to 5 years. And within that time is when you like birthed Sheer. So during that time of being at Saks, what led to the inspiration of like, okay, I need to start Sheer?
Yes. So I think that was like building up for a while, because like honestly, like even in my fashion, not just fashion, like with the internships and stuff, but also even going to a PWI, like I learned very quickly, like, oh, this is not what I'm used to, because I grew up in a, you know, Black neighborhood, predominantly Black neighborhood. And I, even in high school, so my high school was actually predominantly Asian, but I had a mixed friend group, but I was also like on my school step team, and it was like predominantly Black. So I still like I never felt like the only Black girl or like a token or anything. I will say like my major in high school that I mentioned earlier was law and society, and there weren't that many Black people in that major, or like definitely not many Black women. It was like probably me and like two other Black girls in that whole major. So that was the only time I started kind of feeling like, oh, okay, what it's like to be like one of very few Black faces in a room. But it wasn't, but then I still had like my friends and step and like extracurriculars, and I was still going back to my Black neighborhood at the end of the day. So, you know, but I think it was like the internships and then being at Fordham where I was like, oh, like, what is this? Like, I had to really like navigate. And I think like that is the age too, because you're really coming into adulthood. So you're kind of really like learning so many things about yourself, and you're like kind of figuring out your personality, your interests, your identity for yourself outside of like your parents, outside of like, you know, childhood friend groups. And like you're also like becoming more responsible for yourself. So I feel like that's another like evolution in itself. So I struggled really, because I was like, what? Like I didn't know how to navigate being like the only Black woman in a space, or being like, it was really difficult for me. But I think like I had to learn like survival skills. So I feel like there's so many things that changed, like from how I would speak to like, you know, the interests that I started picking up, or like the environments, like where I would go out to eat, or like where like I started kind of like expanding my mind a little bit, but also like, I don't know, I was becoming less like of like how I grew up. Like I was becoming less like Flatbush, because I was like, wait, like no one relates, nobody knows what I'm talking about. Like even when I would go to like the fashion shows I told you about with my internship, and I would have to like get all dressed up, and I would get back on the train, and I would go to my like local like Chinese food spot and get my French fries with like everything on it, and like whatever. And I'm like, this is the, because I'm like, at the fashion show and you're seeing people like, I don't know, like Shiona, Tarini, or whoever, right? And you're like, they're probably going back to their like whatever fancy apartment. I'm at the Chinese food spot with these velvet loafers on and whatever I put on that day. So it was just like really like, I don't know, I feel like I was just confused a lot of the time. Like, and then I would go to like Harper's, right? And there would be all these girls there, like it would be like 10 of them, right? And then I'm like, I just got off the 2 train, like got on at Church Avenue, like I got my, I don't know, like a bacon, egg, and cheese, whatever. And I get to the office and it's like, they all live in Chelsea or Soho. They don't ride the train. They're like, we don't ride the train. I'm like, you're like 19. What do you mean you don't ride the train? Like, who's paying for you to take a cab to work every day? They had $9 smoothies. I'm like, and then one of the girls, I'll never forget this. So she was like, yeah, my dad got us like this private resort, me and my boyfriend, in like some island somewhere, because she was talking about like her birthday. And I'm like, what? Like I never even really like got to go on vacations like that my parents would pay for. You know, like it just wasn't the experience. And this one girl one time, her bag, like the editor, he like came in to check up on us and her bag was like on the counter and he was like, oh, is this one of the samples? She's like, no, it's mine. Like she literally had like this, it was like a Givenchy bag that from the runway, like from the season that we were like prepping for the shoot. She's like, no, it's mine. And I was like, well, not we, because it was just me. I think everybody else was like, oh, this is normal. And I'm just like, what is this life? So I think like just racially, it wasn't just racial, it was also like socioeconomically, you know, like culturally, like it was just so many levels where I just felt really lost and confused. So um experiencing that and then going into Saks, which was like very corporate, like I was kind of shocked, like because I thought it would be more like, you know, lax, but it was very corporate. It was again like predominantly like white women, young white girls, like, and I just kind of thought back to like being a creative and like the reason why I wanted to be creative was to just express myself. That was always the reason. Like that's why I also like when I was really young, because I spent a lot of time alone when I was young. Um, because like my sister, maybe she'd be like at school or whatever, or doing whatever. My mom was always working and I would like write, I would draw. Like those are the ways that I like found kind of like some kind of like comfort, I guess you could say, and like being able to like just express myself in some kind of way. And as I got older and I was like, okay, I want to be a creative, like I want to tell stories or I want to like express myself in my individuality. And here I am in these environments where I feel like I can't, like I'm suppressing who I am, suppressing like where I come from because nobody can relate, nobody understands. And if even if they did, I'm sure they would look down on it, like realistically, you know? So I was just like, I want to create like a space that is just like not just for me, but people that look like me, people that feel like me, people that come from where I come from, or just never felt like they really fit in. And at the time too, like in the fashion industry, it was very, very white. Like I think now we're seeing like, you know, people are like expanding. There's like all this like, you know, diversity and all that stuff. But at the time, like no one cared about being politically correct. And we could see that in culture in general, right? Like with TV shows, you know, like music, no one cared about being politically correct. Nobody cared. There was no canceling. Nobody cared about none of that. So I used to be on Tumblr heavy also at this time. So I love Tumblr so much. I still like hands down like love Tumblr and I don't be on it, but I still like respect it for what it was. And or does it still exist? I think it does,
It
right?
still exists. I think it's slightly having a comeback, but I feel like it's a if you know type of
Mhm.
situation. But that's my point of view with it. But continue.
Well, I that was a lifesaver for me, like growing, like in my college years and like all of that, my early 20s, because I would go on there and I found a lot of inspiration on there. And I used to like just re-blog and like post just like models of color, like people that I wanted to see. Cause I was always like checking for like different models of color in fashion, because that was the space I was in. And I would know like all the models that like all the black models, all the Asian models, like all the Latinx mod, like all of those, like I would always pay attention to them and I would like always reblog them on this Tumblr. And then it kind of expanded to just like artists and just like creatives in general. And I would always reblog them. And I think I called it like Unapologetically Here. I think that was the name of the Tumblr. And then I started growing like a little following. Like I think by the time I stopped working with it, I maybe had like 1,000 followers or something. Like I was growing that little following. And so I was like, oh, like, what if I like made this like an actual like site? Because I was coming from a publication background, and there weren't any real publications that were like owned or operated by like Black women, women of color, except Essence maybe or something like that, which was like for older. At least at the time, to me, I felt like it felt older, and I thought it wasn't really alternative enough because I was thinking more of like a nylon or something where it's like if you're like a little edgy, you know, maybe you don't fit into any box. Because like I kind of also felt like as like a Black girl or like any like, you know, girl of color, you kind of had to fit into a certain box. Like you have to be this kind of stereotype or be the way people expected you to be. Whereas I feel like with white kids, like you can be all these different alternative personalities. You can have like more range, you know, you can be weird, you can dress this kind of way. Like I feel like that didn't feel like it was as open to people of color. Like you couldn't really have nuance. You couldn't really have like, you know, conflicting interests in like music or art. Like that wasn't as like widely accepted. And so I wanted to kind of create that kind of space where people could really be themselves and not feel the pressure of like, oh, I have to fit this identity of Blackness, or oh, I have to fit this identity of like whatever. And yeah, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna make it a website. And it also was a nice escape from like talking to just all white people all day every day at work and having so many, and like they would make like there were so many comments that would be made that were so insensitive. Like this, I remember someone had like an out of office because they were taking like MLK day off, and then people were like laughing like, oh, why would you like take that day off, because we didn't even have the day off. And people would make comments like, you know, if someone had like locks, let's say, oh, like how are they gonna make that formal? Like what are they gonna do with their hair for? And I remember I was like Googling, I'm like, there are formal hairstyles that you could do with locks. Like, are you serious right now? Like, and the fact that I even have to explain this to you, like it was just so many
And
things.
HR, please enter the chat because
Now you know they're not here for us. You know they're not here for us. So I was like, now we have things like the Crown Act, you know, and all of that. But I think like people, because at the time too, like I didn't wear my hair naturally at the time. I had like the straight in the middle part, you know, like the whatever.
I miss that era of Bianca. Sorry, let me stop interrupting you, but continue.
No, it's fine. I like that. I had the straight middle part, so I feel like people felt comfortable kind of like saying certain things, and like that's how I like navigated these spaces too, because I would just like feel like, okay, like I need to like tone down this or like tone down that. And then when I started Sheer, it gave me like a new outlet. Like it just gave me an opportunity to like connect with myself on an authentic level and not feel like I need to suppress myself. It gave me like a new voice, I guess, and like another way to explore my creative interests that I kind of abandoned like a long time ago. And I didn't have anything. Like all I had was Squarespace. Like I just got on Squarespace. I was like, I don't know how to put a website together. I didn't have a logo. I didn't have anything. I just had like the idea for the color that I wanted. Like it was always that pinkish kind of color from Jump. But I didn't have a logo, I didn't have anything. And then I had an idea to just like do a photo shoot. And I was like, I just want to do a photo shoot. I want to get a bunch of like really cool Black girls and that all have different interests, that all come from different like places and do different things. And we're just gonna go to Prospect Park and we're just gonna shoot. And that was like my concept. Like I didn't really have a deep concept. And then I like went to Michael's and I got a bunch of random props. I was like, oh, I want it to be like flowers. This was like 2017. And I ended up getting like 6 girls in the shoot, and a lot of them are like content creators. One of them is like a really popular model. Her name is Osha Waiters. And I couldn't believe she agreed to do the shoot at the time. Like, I was just cold. I was just reaching out to people on Tumblr, you know, some people on Instagram, and they were like, sure. And a lot of incredible women that were in that shoot. And working at Saks at the time, there was a photographer there. Her name's Carmen, and love her to pieces. And she's a really dope photographer. She ended up shooting it for me. She was like, yeah, I'll shoot it. I'll do it. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. And we did the shoot. It was so much fun. I found this girl on Tumblr. She was like 18. She was a makeup artist. I was like, do you want to do makeup for this shoot? And she was like, okay, because she had just started out. And I was like, okay, we can like meet and talk about it. And so I told her to meet me at like this coffee shop. And her mom came, which thank God, because that's a good mom. And like I met with her mom, and I was like talking about the shoot. I was like, it's gonna be for this publication called Share, and it's for women of color, whatever. And so everybody pulled up. She pulled up. I had a friend who also worked at Saks. Her name's Sammy Jo, but she has an amazing jewelry line. She gave me a bunch of jewelry samples for the shoot. Now I think about it, it was like it came out great. So there's like a photo. We can't see it in the background right now, but there's a photo that came out from the shoot, and like I was such an amateur back then, so sometimes I look at these pictures like, what was I doing? Like I don't even know what I was doing with the creative direction. But I love that though, because it shows like my growth, and it shows how far I've come, and like how much I learned about myself, because I just took a chance. And like there was a picture from the gallery I just had where like the flowers were kind of like falling, and she was like, that it was from that shoot, so that's like 6 years ago. And yeah, and that was like Osha in that picture. And I'm like, I love that picture because again, like I think in today's standards, like people would probably be like, oh, it's a cool photo, but like, nah. But I'm like, you don't understand. That was the first shoot I ever did for sure. I had no money, I had nothing.
And that's a good photo. That should be like in a magazine or a billboard or something.
I know Carmen ate that. Like she helped with like the effects. We did like some really cool stuff where we got their signatures, and she like printed their signature, and there are like other versions of these photos too. Like I still have them on my laptop with their signature kind of like printed on it, which is really really cute. And yeah, it was just like fun. And like a lot of these, again, a lot of these women, their careers have like skyrocketed. They're doing like big things. They're like really big on social media now. But I just love that because everyone got along so well. And that's when I realized too, like the shoot itself is like a vibe. Like you want the energy on set to be right. You want everyone to be vibing, having fun. Everyone connected. Like people like met people they didn't know before. And then that's when I realized, oh, it's not just about the output. It's not just about the photos. It's about like bringing these people together. And I interviewed all of them, got, pieces of their story. And one thing that, this is like a funny story that's like not that relevant, but when I went to Michael's, I was buying all these random flowers. I was like doing all this random stuff. Because I was on Tumblr so much, I saw this really cute thing with like gold foil that I thought was so interesting. And I was like, I want to try this. So I'm in the park putting gold foil on these girls' faces. Pictures, they were so bad. So like no one will ever see those pictures. But there's still one with Ken, because like she still had gold foil on her face, and one of the pictures that's still on the website, but like that's the only one. I took like a picture with all of them with the foil, and I was like, this did not, you see something cool online, you're like, I'm gonna recreate this. It came out so bad.
But I need the how-to on how did you do this, because it didn't happen for me.
With the glue, we were really trying to do it, and then the wind kept blowing, so it was crazy. But I always laugh about that because I'm like, you know what? It was funny. I tried something, it did not work. But I just always think about that, and then every time I see the picture in like on my laptop, I just be dying laughing because I'm like, they really let me sit here and glue gold pieces of flakes on their faces. Like people used to be I feel like people were so like down to earth and like more open about stuff. I think now everything just feels too serious, a little too serious for me now. But
too curated now.
Yeah, everything's like overly curated. Back in the day, I feel like we used to just be like down for what people used to be down for whatever. Like, yeah, let's shoot, let's create, let's.
It's about clout and all this stuff. Like, oh, like what is this for? Where am I gonna? Like, I need numbers, I need views. Like,
right. No, at the time, I mean, Instagram was like up there, but like, not at the pace that it is. Because like, if I reached out to any of these women now, they would look at me like I was crazy. But at the time, like this one girl came from DC. Like she was like an influencer on Tumblr. She was pretty big on Tumblr. And she was like, yeah, I want to do this. I love to do this. So she came. So it was like a really great group of women. And it was just a lot of fun. And we all left like just feeling like just kind of like fulfilled. Like, like had like we all connected. It was just like, it was a good time. And so I still have these photos. And then I tried to I wasn't doing interviews yet. I was more so just like writing for myself, like writing about topics that like interested me. Like I remember I had this one post I made about like bleaching, because that's something I like really like still feel like really strongly about, like just colorism and all of that. So I wrote something about that, and I just like different things. And then I would like look at fashion shows, and I would like specifically focus on like women of color designers, because there weren't that many, especially in New York. There just weren't a lot. There still aren't that many to this day, like in the like actual fashion week circuit, not just doing their own thing. So I would find shows and like post my favorite looks and write about them. Because I forgot to mention this, I also wrote for a blog when I was in college, a fashion blog. And so I used to like write reviews about different like collections that would come out, and I wrote for my school newspaper. So I used to write fashion articles for my school newspaper. for the Fordham Observer. So that was another thing I was doing. So I kind of tried to bring all of that into like sheer and like all my different skills. And after a while, I just gave up on it. I was like, yeah, this was 2017. By 2018, I gave up on it. I was like, it's not working. I didn't have social media for it yet, other than the Tumblr. It was just the Tumblr and the website on Squarespace. I didn't have like a brand identity. I didn't have a plan. And I just shut it down. Like, I just shut it down. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna give up on this. And so I was like, let me just focus on my career and like stability again, because I feel like that's been a theme in my life. It's like dreaming and then reality check, dream, reality check. Like it was just like back and forth, back and forth. And so this was like my reality check phase. And so I was just living my life. Like I was still working at Saks. Even though I was at Saks for a long time, I constantly like moved around. Like I went from working in the photo studio, then I did like digital merchandising for them. And then I did marketing. Then I ended in like marketing and like partnerships. And I was just like having fun. I was just out, like just really living my life. I was like, whatever, I'm in like my mid-20s now. Like dating, like whatever, all that stuff. And then I had like a really like weird, it was like 2018. I had a really like weird moment where I was like, this can't be my life. Like my life can't just be like going to this job that, yeah, it's cool, but like my heart's not really in it. And going out. Like I was like, there has to be like more. I need more. And so I was like thinking and like just going through. I also like had a lot of like kind of like really like negative situations like with men that were like a little heartbreaking. And it was just like a lot of things going on. And I had also started like therapy, or I was like working on my journey to starting therapy. I started healing. Once you start reading quotes and watching videos and you start getting into that like space, I'm like, oh, I think my healing journey is about to start. Like that's kind of how I was feeling. I was getting more like spiritual. And yes, I did start therapy. And I was like, I swear, like I felt like God was telling me that I need to pick sheer back up. Like it was like a spiritual, like, what are you doing? Like, that you're supposed to be doing more. Like, that it was just like a divine kind of like intervention. I feel like if you're not like woo woo, then you're probably like, what are you talking about? But I know what I'm talking about. So I was like, oh, this is clear as day. Like, I need to do this. I just need to go about it in a more serious way. Like, I feel like I was just like throwing things at the wall, but like now I need a plan. So I spent months. I linked up with a friend who's a graphic designer, and he was working at Saks at the time too. And me and him, we met and we came up with my logo. But it actually started. So there was a guy I was talking to at the time. He actually gave me the idea for the Browns. So we were talking. He was also a graphic designer, but he was the one that made my logo. But he was like, oh, like you should like, he was just sending me a bunch of pictures. And he was like, oh, you should try these different shades. I don't know, see like what that's like hitting for. And I was like, oh, you're right. Okay, let me think about it. So I took that and I wanted to keep the pink. So I was like, oh, the brown, it actually kind of goes together. I like that. And then me and Raheem, who was the graphic designer that made my logo that I still have to this day, we would meet up constantly. It took us like a month. And he sent me so many, I still have them, the old designs, because I always want to keep them so I can remember what this could have looked like, what this could have been. But I settled on the one I have now. I don't really know why. I think I was just like, that's the one. I like this. This is the one. And the name Sheer too, that came up because I knew I wanted it to be something short and like visually like have some kind of symmetry, even though it doesn't, but it has like the two E's in the middle. Like I like that. But I wanted it to be something that represented like transparency and authenticity and like vulnerability, because that's something that I was struggling with. So that just made sense. Like I didn't overthink it. I had a bunch of different names, but that was the one that stuck. And then with the logo, like me and Raheem worked on it for like a month, then settled on that. So he sent me all the files. That became my logo. I went back on Squarespace and I was like, the domain was still available, obviously, because who else is Share worldwide? Like nobody's gonna have that. So so I'm still available, and I went back on and I uploaded the photos from the 2017 shoot. And I was also like, I spent hours, like every day after work, I'll come home and I'll spend hours like on the layout of the site. Like I didn't know how to web design. I didn't have no money to pay anyone to do that. I already just paid for the logo. So I was like, I don't have no money for that. So I just like from working at Saks, I learned a lot about like site design and like navigation when I was doing my merchandising work. So I kind of like used that, and I was like, okay, this navigation needs to be here. This makes sense here. These are different pages. I thought about the different categories I wanted to cover. And then I went on Tumblr and I made a massive list of all the artists and creatives that I liked, that I followed. And I just started hitting that list down one by one and just email people. Like I was just like, hey, I'm starting this publication. Would you be interested in being interviewed? And that's how that started. And people were actually like, yeah. And I was like, oh my God, really? Okay, let's do this. And so that's how I started interviews with different artists. I'll never forget, there's so many artists. I was reaching out because I always wanted it to have a global impact. So I was reaching out to artists in like Australia, in like Indonesia, in like London, in South Africa. Like if you look at my earlier share interviews, they were all very global. Like I was reaching out to people in other countries, and they were so excited and like so willing to do it. And I remember in therapy too, like I kept like stalling on when I wanted to launch. And my therapist was like, just launch. Like stop worrying about like making everything perfect or doing this, doing that. He was like, just launch. And so I yeah, I just went for it, and I started the Instagram. And so once I started Instagram, people started following it. I would just post inspiration. I would post like memes. I would post like funny things that were just funny to me at the time, interesting at the time. Like some political stuff, some just like mental health stuff. Whenever I had a new interview, I would post their artwork, post that. Yeah, and then I just started doing mad interviews, and people would just submit their photos, and then people started reaching out to me to do interviews, which was like, whoa. So I was like, okay, there's something here. And then, yeah, so that was like the start. That was like 2019. And I actually did like 3 photo shoots that year too. And you were at one of them.
Because we met right before that. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and that's why I was there at Black and Green, because I interviewed the founder.
Mm-hmm.
And they like asked if I wanted to come to the event. And I was like, hell yeah. So that's
And didn't you? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was saying, yeah, that's how we met.
And didn't you also like do a write up about the event, or no? You just went and just attended for fun.
Yeah, I just attended because I had just did the interview, and so I kind of like wrote about them already. And then they were like, "Oh, we're having this beauty event in New York. If you want to come," and I was like, "I'd love to come." I think I just like posted on the Instagram. But,
okay, yeah. Like a few, like yeah, okay,
yeah.
Okay, so I love this, and being that we're friends and like I know about your brand Sheer, like I love like just the very like deep nuances of like learning about like how Sheer came about. And I think like we definitely have to offline about this, even though we have talked about this personally. I think like I see why God like really put you in my life. So yeah. So I want to go back. I feel like because you said like back then a lot of shows like weren't really trying to be politically correct. Mm-hmm. And I think like now shows are just trying to be like overly politically correct. Mm-hmm. And it's becoming a little like annoying in a sense. Mm-hmm. Because yeah, it's just I'm not gonna go on a full tangent, but it really annoys me because I may cut this part out, but I've just been saying like I want segregation back. Like I don't want like the
it's too performative.
It's too performative because this isn't what we asked for.
Yeah, you just want to exist. But that goes back to what I was saying. Like I'm wearing the unapologetically spiritual sweatshirt that I have the collab with Highly Human, which is like an amazing page. And they
wait, that collab is still going on?
Well, no, this is the same design. It's just a sweatshirt.
Oh, okay.
Here.
Okay.
But I think did you have a chance to meet Willa? He was at
the pop-up. Which pop-up?
It wasn't a pop, the stoop sale. I keep calling it.
No, I didn't. I came so late. I didn't. Unless maybe it was a he, right?
Yeah, he was there. He, they, both.
Yeah.
And yeah, so on the shirt, because I wrote the back of the shirt, and one part of it was about like just existing versus like performing.
Mm-hmm.
I remember if I don't know why I'm blanking. I don't know if I've used the exact word existing, and I can't see the back of my shirt right now. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's like a big, I think, part of like what I'm trying to like navigate right now. And I think that's a big part of what we're missing as like a society is like just existing. Like everything now just feels like a constant performance or like, yeah, like I just feel like we need to just get back to just like existing and just like being. Not everything is like, I've been seeing a lot of videos about this too. People are saying like not everything is um uh like an aesthetic, or like not everything is like I'm like goth core, I'm norm core, I'm like soft girl, or I'm like cottage core. I'm like, it's just like,
Be you. Because
and
even
I think
earlier you said you put yourself in a box, and I feel like you don't. But continue.
I used to.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, I used to. That's why I'm learning to like not, like I feel like sheer has been a big part of me like learning to not do that. But I think that's a big part of survival, because like a big part of like surviving in this society, but not like surviving as a human, if that makes sense. Like surviving as a human is like reliant on you just being yourself fully in all the pieces and parts that don't make sense. But we know that this, like these systems that we're in don't care about our humanity. So it's about just surviving. If you're trying to survive in the system, then yes, you need to package yourself. You need to make yourself a brand. You need to be palpable to people. You need to be marketable, because that's how this economy survives. Like if we're not marketable, the economy's not going to survive. Like we need to like feel like we need these products or these whatever, so we fit this whatever that we're trying to be. So yeah, it's a lot, but that I
And
feel like that's at odds with creativity.
yeah, no, yeah. And that actually segues to my next point of like surviving in the system. I felt like when you were talking about like your experiences in the different like industry, the different jobs you held, it seemed like Sheer became okay. So I have this thing with myself that any job I apply to, I don't expect a job to be 100% perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing's going to be 100% perfect. I need it to be like that 80-20%, where it needs to be 80%. If I'm spending 40 plus or 40 hours a week here, it's at least 80% great. And the other 20% that aren't so great is whatever. And
Right.
I feel like from your experiences, I'm gonna say that you were having that 80% experience, but you were just like, okay, y'all a little woo woo, and I just need something for me. And I think that's where Sheer came in to be like that. This is my way of like really getting to like tap into the skill sets that I have and really go past like what I'm able to do at work. Because you were doing amazing things at work, but really just like being around a community of people that like look like you, and like after y'all did the shoot, y'all can go and like have some food at like the bodega. Because I think
Right.
I don't even remember what we did after the shoot, but I feel like maybe
We were just chilling. I feel like I ended up, oh my God, it's crazy because I think we stopped by this woman. She was selling rings. Because I'll never forget this. This woman was like selling rings like over by Dumbo. Like she had all these beautiful rings. And I ended up interviewing her for sure. I bought a ring and I was like, oh my God, can I get your information? Because I'd love to like learn more about like how you started making these rings. And I ended up like interviewing her. Yeah, she was really cool. Um, that was like so long ago though. Now that was like,
yeah.
but yeah, we were just chilling, just laughing, just vibing. Like even on at the shoot, we had the speaker going. We're just like
It was cold that day. I remember it was cold.
yeah, it was cold. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's not your fault. You're not the weather. You don't control the weather.
But yeah, like I think we were just kind of like vibing. And like it wasn't anything official. That's why like I think now when I do stuff for sure, I'd be like, oh, it's not the old days no more. You gotta like do the most.
Yes, it's true. And that just shows like your growth also as well. So I took some notes where you also were like just talking about like you interviewed like women fashion designers, like people of color. And I think I learned, especially with this past fashion week that passed, is like a lot of women fashion designers sometimes aren't at those shows because they don't have the money to be able to show. Because I think people don't realize how much it costs to show, but then also to be able to produce what you just showed. And that's where I think across the board in any industry, people of color, and especially Black people and Black women, can't show up if they don't have the resources to be able to show up the way that they know they can. And sometimes I think that's where we as people, Black, when I say we, I mean we as Black women or Black people, we like get really creative with how we show and how we like promote stuff. And then it ends up becoming a trend or whatever the case may be.
Right.
So, oh, were you going to say something?
No, I was gonna say I feel like that's when you're like your most creative, when you have to be resourceful.
Yeah. It's like when I go back and listen to like old raps of like Nicki or like Kanye, or people be like, dang, this person was hungry. And like now that they're in a place of like not that hungriness, you can see like the transition of like, okay, they still want it, but it's not the same as when they first came out.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that also has to do with like expectations and pressure that comes around when you do have like more people paying attention, because I like share is not anywhere near like where I guess I aspire for it to be as far as like scale, but it has come a long way from where it was. And I think that like back when I didn't really like care, I guess, as much, or like I didn't have as many people like involved or engaged in what I was doing, um, I had a lot more fun with it. I think now, like, and I feel like I was able to take the leaps that I was able to take and make the progress because of that lack of like concern of like perception, or like there were no expectations really on me. I was just kind of like I had free range to just kind of play around and experiment and fail and fail fast and like take risks and do whatever. Now I feel like I've been stunted a little bit in my growth because I feel like there is more pressure. Like I feel like there are more expectations, and it may not necessarily even be external. It could just be me, like feeling like, oh, okay, well, this happened this way. That I feel like I have to keep doing this, or I feel like I have to keep, doing that, or maintain this, or like it's kind of hard for you to like take risks or want to like do something out the box or whatever when you feel like maybe more people are paying attention or there's just like higher stakes.
No, I definitely agree with that. I think it's like that saying that people say, like, I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my shit. Like, it's like, as an artist and a creative, like, we may sit on some stuff for like a long time where it's like, oh, I have this like work that I need to release to the world, but it's like, I just want to enjoy it before the critique start to come in and people say like, oh, I love it, versus like, oh, why would she do that, or oh, this is like
Yeah.
such a downgrade from what she's done in the past. And it's really the challenge of people expect you to get better and better. And honestly, if I can interview SZA one day, I would love to ask her, is that why it took her so long to release her next album, is because she was just so like afraid of what people would say depending on like what the next steps would be.
As a fellow Scorpio, I I can understand that. I think it's the sensitivity. I don't know her, so I don't know what she's thinking, but I feel like it's that sensitivity. Because like I also like feel not that I'm like mysterious or anything, but I love behind the scenes. I love like I don't like attention. I don't like attention. It makes me uncomfortable. Like it's weird because I feel like as humans we do crave attention in a way, like instinctually, but like 'cause, like you want to feel like validated, but at the same time like I don't like it. And so I like to be able to do things like in private and figure things out in private. And like one of the hard things about having like a company or like a, platform or media company or whatever is that like you have to fail publicly. Or like you have to like come up with something and it flops publicly, or like it doesn't go the way you planned publicly. Like you can't just like, and I think that's like I just yeah, it's hard. Like I because I want to experiment. That's just how I am. I like trying new things and challenging myself, but I want to do that where I can take my L in silence. It's not like with people being like, oh, like, because then now it's like people are like, oh, I know sheer. And then it's like, if you come out with something and it's not hot or it's not giving, then you're like, okay, but I'm having fun. I'm trying something new. Like, but it just doesn't feel the same anymore.
Doesn't. It's like Pierre Moss. I really do hope that he like makes a comeback because I don't want him to see like what he's done as a failure. I
Yeah,
want
exactly.
like yeah, I want it to be seen as like, well, Kirby, not him. I don't want to say him as like Pierre because Pierre Moss is the brand, but
Right.
Kirby, I just don't want him to see like what he's done as a failure. Like he's been in a place where he had so many things that he never had before. Like he never had that much money before, like these opportunities or these connections. And I think like, especially to your point, and I just had an interview and we talked about this too. We as Black people don't give ourselves the vulnerability to be able to gracefully fail because we as Black people are just so hard on ourselves of it has to like there's so much more added pressure to be the best at what we do and we just can't just have fun with it.
Right.
Aside from like just being an artist as well, there's also that pressure of like our community, I think, Sam.
Yeah, no, and that was one of the mindsets I had to break out of. I mean, I still work in corporate, obviously I still have like a 9 to 5. So there is still that pressure to like be the best or be excellent or do like the most or work the hardest when you're like the representative almost, you feel like, of your race in a setting, in an environment, or just one of like very few. And so that is like another thing with sheer, because like what I always say, like with sheer, you're not an other. Like the whole point of sheer, like even though I do say like it is for women of color, it is for creatives of color and things like that, I only say that so it's clear that what this space is, because I don't like, I even hate using that term now, or like any kind of like identity markers in that way, because the whole point is it's centering us. So like that's why like I describe Share as like centering the stories of like, you know, creative women and non-binary people of color, because I don't want us to feel like an other. Like I feel like that's dead. Like we're done with that. We're not an other. Like we are the center of our world. We're the center of our communities. Like yes, I may be in this environment where I am the other, but you're not going to treat me that way because I'm a whole person. And in my mind, I am the center of my universe. Like my culture, my outlook, my perspectives, the way I dress, the way I do my hair, like whatever, that is my center. You may not understand it. That's your problem. Educate yourself. But I'm not an other, you know? And I think like that's kind of what I'm trying to get out of, because sometimes I feel like we might create or like do things based on still with that mentality of like, oh, we're an other, but it's like, no, like we are at the center. Like we deserve to exist just as much as everybody else, and we deserve to exist in all of our like, you know, just authenticity, and like not have to water it down or make it palatable for people to understand.
No, that's all very, very true. Um, so transitioning a little bit, you said that you started Share, you did the photo shoot, you were like getting started, like going, and then you took a break. And then you said like it seemed like what you were saying is that you were going through like a season, just a season of your life where you just needed to take a break to, I think, like realize what it was that Sheer was to you, and then you had like that calling from like the universe or God saying like you need to come back to it. What made you take that break?
I think because I just kind of felt like, you know how some people are like, oh, there's no purpose sometimes in life. Like it's not about having a purpose. It's just about existing. And like, because some people, they don't feel like they have a purpose per se. They just want to exist. And that could put a lot of pressure on you. But I guess like everyone is different, because for me, like just going to work and hanging out, that was not enough for me. I was like, that's not my life. This can't be my life. Like, and yeah, I just felt kind of like empty. Like I felt like I want to do something. Like I want to like, even if it's on a small scale, like do something that has an impact or that helps make the world more of the place that I want it to be, or that I would want to see. And like that has just made sense. Like that was my way. Again, like even in the smallest scale, even if it's like I can make a difference of 0.00001%, like that's good enough for me, because at least I feel like maybe I left things a little better, you know, than when I came into this world. And that's important to me. And just like hearing people say like, oh, like that like inspired me, or I learned something, or like that made me feel good, or this made me feel better about myself. Like that means like whenever I get like feedback like that, it's the best feeling in the world. Like I don't think any other feeling compares to like knowing that whatever you do or something that you're doing is having a positive impact on somebody's like well-being or their mental or their emotional health. Like that is like such a blessing.
I definitely agree. I think it's also like adding on to what you said is just what is my legacy, and like wow, like what I'm doing is inspiring others to like go after what they want, and you don't realize like you had to do what you're doing in order for someone else to do what they're doing currently. So yeah.
Yeah. And that's ultimately what Sheer is, because it's just me sharing people's stories, doing things that I didn't have the courage to do, honestly. Like I interview so many people, and I've had people like that have like interviewed, you know, on Sheer's behalf, and they've interviewed other creatives, and it's like, wow, like hearing people's stories, hearing how people got to where they got to, hearing about their process, like the way they think, how they approach their creativity, why they do what they do, like that's so fascinating to me. And that's what I want people to see, that you can come from wherever and still be a creative and make money, or no, it's not even just about making money, like live the life that you know want to live and being your true self. Like there's some people I interviewed, they're just themselves. Like that's why it's like unapologetically here. Like they are so themselves unapologetically. They did not care, but it took a lot for them to get there, you know? And then some of them, they were encouraged from a young age, which is also a blessing, you know, to be creative, to be artistic, to be themselves. So there's so many different paths and like so many different stories, but that is what I want to share. So people can see like, oh, I can do this too. If you're on the fence or you're not sure, like there are like over 100 examples here of people who have, you know, built whatever their businesses or their craft or just create art, and they come from all different walks of life. They have so many different experiences. There are people who talk about their mental health, you know, different like things that they go through, and they are still, you know, navigating it. Like they're open and honest about it, but they're still finding ways to navigate through that, and offering those resources too is like important to me. So just advice, like there's a wealth of advice on Sheer through these interviews and through these features. So
No,
yeah, that's really
definitely.
inspired to keep doing, and to not put yourself in a box again. Like that's really important to me, because I don't think Sheer fits into a box. I don't think you can compare it to anything really. I don't, the level, the multitude of interviews and features that I have on there, like it doesn't compare. So just also encouraging people to like just do whatever they want to do, be whoever they want to be, and like that's cool.
And no, I think like when you were describing Sheer, it really made me think about like my brand, like why I'm doing the interviews I'm doing. And I think I'm just taking more of like that mental health approach from it. But I agree, like I have that same like purpose or vision that I want it to be something where people can be like inspired, that you can come from any background and like still end up where you want, or you never know like how the road may take you where you're going. And really just know, like, don't let anything stop you, and also know that you're not going to know how you're going to get there, what the full path is going to look like. Just take the first step. Okay, tapping back in. So the last thing I want to say is a quick aside. I love when you said that the guy that you were dating or whatever helped you with like the logo and was like give you the like inspiration.
I was
Because
too. So a friend, a guy friend, helped with the logo. That
no,
was
yeah, the guy friend, but the other guy
I was talking to at the time. Yeah, yeah.
that reminded me, I'm watching Insecure and Nathan and Issa with the block party, and I was just like, oh my god, she's having her like her insecure moment. So
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no,
yeah,
super super cool person.
mm-hmm.
Talented.
Yeah, I love that. So describe Sheer in 3 words.
Oh my god. Whew. Uh, yeah. Though these are always so hard for me because I use so many words all the time. I don't know how to be brief. Okay, 3 words. I would say, mm, I would say healing, because it's been healing for me and I hope for others. Um, Definitely liberating. It has been liberating for me, and I aspire for it to be liberating for others. And um, I'm gonna be intentional. Intentional.
I love that you use healing, because I know when we first started talking, you even like when I say we first started talking, I mean like us as our friendship, but also you mentioned it during your like when you were talking earlier, is that you were in therapy and your therapist was even like just started like get to it. And I feel like as I'm going through like my personal healing journey, I'm learning that like therapy isn't the only resource to heal. There's so many other things that are part of that, and in so many ways, me focusing on podcasts is part of that healing journey. To, like you said, this was your way of like learning about the creatives in the field that you wanted to be in. So it's like a way like healing your inner child of what you didn't get a chance to do. And I think it's the same thing like with my brand. It's like a part of like my healing journey of like healing like the things I didn't know because of like maybe the lack of resources I had growing up, and hopefully like being a resource for other people that don't have these resources, but they can hopefully like get to what they want to be or do, or the happiness they want in their life. So yeah. I don't want to ask too many long-winded questions. So I want to try and keep the time, but I also okay. Okay, I'm gonna skip that question. Okay. Last year you planned your first, and correct me if I'm wrong if it wasn't your first, but you planned your first in real life art exhibit.
Yeah.
What was the reasoning behind hosting the exhibit and what was the execution process like?
Oh my gosh. So it was another human design story. I uh I was at a work dinner unrelated to Share, and I was it was in a gallery randomly, and I was like, what is this space? And it was like black and brown art in the space, and we had like assigned seating, and I just happened to be seated next to the person who like helped plan the dinner. So as I was chatting with her, she expressed that she partners with this organization called Shishama, and they take like unused space and create exhibits, galleries, that sort of thing. And I was like, oh wow, that's so cool. And so immediately, of course, I thought about Sheer, and I was like, well, I know a bunch of different artists. Like I would love to have like a space. But she actually suggested, she was like, what if you had like an art show? Like I was not thinking, I never planned to have an art show. That wasn't on my plans for the year. That wasn't like in my mind at all. This was like spring of last year. And she like got me contact information, someone at Shashama. She's like, talk to them and see like, what you could do. And I was like, sure. So I just had the call. And they were like, we accept applications in the summer, like at the end of August. So just apply and see what happens. So yeah, I had this call with her, and she's like, oh, we accept applications in August. You should just apply, whatever. And I'm like, what am I even gonna like say? Like, I've never like curated an exhibit before. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, what I'm talking
Are you
about.
okay, Bianca? Because you still look like you're struggling a little bit. Okay.
I really am about like, I'm
You want to
not,
go get a cup of water?
I have a water bottle over there. It's like, it's on the like, it's like the final stages of like,
Okay. If you want to go get the water, please do, because there's only so much I could do from over here.
I'm not gonna choke. I'm not gonna joke.
Okay.
I'm just like, okay. All right. So, okay, I'm good. I'm good. So yeah, so I was like, okay, like I'm gonna apply. I picked like a bunch of artists. I reached out to them first just to make sure they'd be cool with it. But luckily, like this was last year, so this was 2022. I've been interviewing people since 2019, so I had a good amount of people to choose from. So, and I had those like relationships already, so it was like perfect timing. So I was able to go back and like reach out to these people, and like most people were like, sure, I'd love to do this, like keep me posted. So I just applied, and I asked specifically for a space in 2023 because I know like it could take a lot of time and effort, money, like to do something like this. So that's what I requested. 2 months later, I get an email at the end of October saying you're gonna have a space December, first week of December, for a month. And I'm like, it's the end of October. Like I also was going to on a trip for like 2 weeks for my birthday. That was the next month. So I was like, how am I going to do it? Like it was insane. Like I just like we don't even have enough time for me to break down the process because it was so intense. But like I'm like thank God for like so many people that helped me with that because like first I was like, okay, I already reached out to these artists, but some of them were out of the country. So people had to ship me their art. I had art that came from like Canada, I had art that came from Spain. I had people that they weren't going to be in town. I had to kind of like print for them, or I had to frame for them. A lot of people couldn't make it to like mount their art. So thank God, like I had a friend, he was like really good with doing like kind of like home stuff, and he helped put up the art, like pretty much most of the art. I was like, how am I going to like do the vinyl stuff? Like, you have like vinyl, like the like letters on the wall, like explaining stuff, and like on the door. Like, I was like, I don't know how to do any of this. So I was doing research. I had friends help me. Like one of my good friends, she's a graphic designer. She did all the lettering because they needed a certain like file type. I had another friend help me do research to find different vinyl places. It was like a late night. Like I remember one night, it was like 1 a.m. It was my mom's birthday that weekend. I was out all day with my mom. I got home. It was like 1 a.m. I'm on the computer, like Operation Final. Like I mean, because it was like 2 weeks out to opening. I had to like not only get all the art there, get all the art up. I was also responsible for the space because once you get the space, it's basically like a lease you're signing. So I had to be like, responsible for like cleaning, trash, all that kind of stuff. Um, and not only are you planning an exhibit, but you're also planning an opening event. So I had to plan the opening. I was trying to send out emails to get sponsors for like liquor, for food, I hired a DJ, like, which my friend helped me with that as well. It was just like so much getting the invites out. My other friend helped me make the flyer to like advertise, to promote. So I had to make all the social media posts. It was just craziness. And I spent like a few days prior to the opening. Every night I would go to the gallery to help set up. I bought random benches on Amazon because again, it's an empty space. There's no like where for anyone to sit. My sister bought a clothing rack, so people could like hang their coats because it's like December, it's like wintertime. They didn't like provide, all they provided was like 2 tables, which thank God for that. The tables at least and the chairs, but for like reception and stuff. But I got flyers printed out. It was like a whole thing. And then with like the artists too, like I basically set up a page on the Sheer website. So I created a QR code. So I had the QR code made with vinyl too, plastered on the wall. So you can scan the QR code. And I built a whole page with every artist, a bio for each artist, their artwork, and then I had them record audio. So with each piece of art, they recorded audio explaining, and I uploaded that to the site. Explain it still exists if you want to like check out the art and listen to them talk about it. And I also had to do like the legal stuff, like I had to draft contracts. So another mentor of mine, he had worked with an art gallery before, so he sent me a contract. So I reworded it to match Sheer so they could all sign the contract explaining like the pricing for everything. So I had to kind of do that too and make sure they signed all the contracts. And I had like, I don't know, 10 artists, I think, or the 9 or 10. So making sure I was doing all that. Oh my God, what else did I have to do? I planned a closing event as well. So I brought 3 Black photographers in to do pop-ups within the gallery space. I also, because I had this free space, I sent an email to like almost everyone that I knew. And I was like, do you want to use the space? So someone actually did get back to me, and they ended up hosting 2 poetry nights there. And we had a really great turnout both nights because people were expressing that they don't have enough spaces to do this. So that was really, really nice to be able to do that. That was all the same week of the closing event. So I had 3 events that week, and then I had to pack up and like clean up the space and do all and take down everything. But it was the most rewarding experience ever. I learned so much, and I had a village of people helping with that, and I appreciate everyone. And yeah, and it was nice to be able to we got a feature in Brooklyn Magazine, which was really, really fun to like have that and see like all that work and like see all these artists represented. And being from Brooklyn, like it was such a big deal for me. And then I actually, one of my friends, she works in PR and she helped put together like a press release. And she was actually in contact with NBC because there was a producer that was actually going to come and cover the gallery, but the timing didn't work out because there was something going on in politics. There was some drama, and so their schedule was kind of backed up. And then by the time they were ready to do it, I had to like give up the space because I only had it for a month. But that would have been really like fun if that worked out. But yeah, it was just, and my mom came to the opening, my family was there, so it was really nice to like open them up to the side of me that I feel like they don't get to see often. And like my mom was really excited and really proud, as someone who wasn't the biggest advocate of like, creative profession. Yeah, she's really proud. So yeah, it was great. And I'm so grateful for everyone that was a part of it, because for some people at the show, like they hadn't shown their work yet before. So it was their first time being in a show. Like for some people, it was their first time being in a show in New York. I had another artist who flew in from LA. She was there for the opening and she got to show her art, and she was really excited to be there. So Yeah, it was just like just thinking about it. It was a lot of work. It was really hard. It was my first time doing it. I didn't end up getting any sponsorships because it was late in the year and it was just the timing. It was just too short of a window. So I like paid for everything. Like it was a lot. Um, but I am so grateful. Like I'm just grateful. I'm grateful. And how it happened too. Like it was very organic. I did not even know about Shashama really prior to that interaction. So yeah, it was like super like divinely ordained.
It was a really good exhibit. I was gonna pull. I still have the graphic from it. So the little like card.
I have one there.
Yeah, yeah, that one. Yeah.
I salvaged at least like two of them. So I still
Yay! I just have my one that I keep up just for inspiration. But it was a really good event. And I think it just goes back to what you said earlier. Like every time you grow within your business, you're just like up leveling and like doing the next big thing. And this was like that next big thing. So you've been in business for almost 5 years. What has been your biggest takeaway from running Sheer as a brand?
mm, um I'm still very much, sometimes I feel uncomfortable giving advice about sheer because I'm very much like figuring it out myself. Um, but I would say my biggest takeaway is to just be like fearless. Um, because I think I sometimes care a little too much about like how things are going to be perceived, or like is does this make sense like in the market, does this make sense with like what people are like talking about right now, or like, but I feel like sometimes when you have like a vision for something or you're doing something, it may not always align with like what's trending at the moment, or like how everyone else is doing their thing or how they're running their business. Like I have to constantly remind myself of like why I'm doing what I'm doing, because people are like behaviors and attention spans are constantly going to be shifting. And if you like keep trying to keep up with that, you're just gonna end up doing what everyone else is doing, and it's just gonna feel like sameness all the time. And I feel like I have to learn how to stay in my own lane and like just happily stay in my own lane, even if it feels discouraging at times, even if it feels like there's no motion. You know, everybody talk about motion. I got motion. Sometimes I don't got no motion. Like right now, I no motion. Like, and that's okay. Like I don't always have to be like doing something or like having this cosign or that. Like it's not always about that. Like sometimes you have to just get to the root and the core of why you're doing what you're doing and just sit in that and not let all the outside noise distract you. And I feel like I got to a point where I got really distracted, and that's why I'm on a break right now. And I had to take a break because I already like have done, like Sheer has done so much. Like Sheer has done so, like especially last year. Like I had to sit back and think about everything that happened last year, and even like the first half of this year, like from January to June, so much happened with Sheer. And it's okay to like take a step back and like just sit in what you've already done and reflect, process, like, and just bask in it too. Like, just be like, that felt good doing that. Like, I don't have to prove myself again, or I don't have to like show that I can do like slow motion is still good motion. Like, no motion sometimes is still good. Like, yeah, like just taking care of myself. And I can't create from a place of exhaustion. I can't create from a place of burnout. I can't create from a place of constantly needing to keep up. Like that's not healthy. That's not sustainable. And I think as someone who's always been in survivor mode and who's been a hard worker and who grew up watching other women work really, really hard, like a big part of the healing is like detaching from that and like understanding that it is okay to not do anything. It is okay to just exist. Like we were saying, just exist, just be. And I've been just like taking in inspiration more. Like I kind of felt stuck and stagnant and like I was losing my way. And so I'm like sharpening my vision, like, you know, getting back into my lane. I feel like I was veering off into other lanes. I'm like veering back into my lane because it's waiting for me. And also just like nurturing my mind. Like I've been reading more, um, finding inspiration, doing more things I love to do, like working on myself as a person, because your business is an extension of you. So the better I work on myself and my mind and my heart posture, the better the things that come out of that will be. So yeah, just like lots of inner work happening on my end right now. And just like refreshing like my mind, refreshing my spirit, and affirming myself and the work that I do and the people that have been a part of this work too.
Can't wait until the next episode to get your cup filled. Follow us on our social media platforms at Pour Into My Cup on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Pinterest. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast to stay updated when new episodes are released. Leave a review and pour into someone else's cup by sharing the podcast. And I have to ask, is your cup half empty or half full? Peace, love, happiness. Brashiba signing off.